Hello everyone, this is Joanna the Median. Thank you so much for coming back. And for those of you who are new, thank you so much for joining, and I hope you like what you see. This is going to be your June forecast. I hate the word forecast because I don't predict per se. Your June reading, intuitive reading, let's put it that way. An exciting month. I feel there's a lot of changes we're all going through, and I've been seeing that from you as well. Bear in mind, these are general readings, which means they will not connect with everyone. If it did, I don't think that's even possible. They do, interestingly, connect with a lot of you. Pieces may connect with you, some pieces may not. It may not connect with you one day and totally connect with you a day later or a week later. So do listen to this whenever you listen first and then at the end of the month, because they do make much more sense. Also, because these are general, listen to it to the other signs, your moon sign and your rising sign, as well as sun sign, because they will offer you a lot more information oftentimes. And of course, these are general, like I mentioned, so it's impossible for me to cover everybody. And if you would like a private session, that information is down below for you. I decided to do Uranus readings, so I will be doing those within the next couple of weeks. I will let you know when they are done, and I will focus on the entire 7 years of what we can expect for each sign, and that's how my guides are asking me to present this. So it'll be a big picture. So stay tuned. I will be announcing when that will be ready. And I think that's all I have. Have yourself a wonderful month of June. For those of you who have birthdays in June, happy birthday. And without further ado, let's move on with individual signs. I'll see you in a bit. Hello, beautiful Capricorn. This is going to be a reading for the month of June 2018. I'd like to go through, why am I saying happy birthday? It's not your guys' birthday. For those of you who know somebody or who are close to somebody who's having birthday round about now, whenever you're listening to it, I'm supposed to say happy birthday. So that was interesting. All right. Having said that, let me go through some of the channeled messages that I received for you. The very thing that I feel, I actually feel a whole bunch of things. There's a resounding amount of sadness that's coming up to the surface. Don't freak out. It's coming up to the surface to be freed, to be why is it coming up to the surface? To be cleared. So some of you may experience bouts of sadness in the month of June, possibly July. Nothing to worry about. I don't feel. It is just some stuff and old wounds coming up to the surface. I also heard the word surrender. Now, when I look at all the information I have with regards to cards, it all speaks to the same thing. So there's something fundamentally raw about the month of June for you. Interesting choice of words. It's almost like you are going to feel like you are being stripped open or stripped. So stripped is all about vulnerability, and you actually have a lot of information about vulnerability. So that is what I saw right off the bat. One of the words that was very prominent for you was the word objectivity. And I saw many of you either beginning a brand new relationship, or for some of you, you are coming around again. So this to me signified that you might be spending time with someone you have spent time in the past, but for whatever reason you guys drifted apart. Now this can be a romantic relationship, this can also be a friendship, it could be a co-worker, obviously a family member, but the coming around is for quite a few of you, actually, is what I'm seeing. For some of you it's like a sister. So that's what I saw. But then I heard the word objectivity. So it's almost like, I don't want to interpret, but it's almost like whatever is happening with the relationship that's coming back again, I want to say be mindful and be objective about it. So you'll have to figure out what that means for you. I also heard very clearly Spirit saying to you, be honest with yourself this time. So definitely some changes or some circumstances that seem to be coming up for many of you in order to, shall I say, test your growth. And when we change and when we shift, we often are tested just to see if we got it, so to speak. So for some of you, this will be dating, and a lot of it will be relationships, because that seemed to be the theme. But for some of you, it's going to be in other areas. The animal that came for you was very interesting. It's a beaver. So whatever beaver means to you, or look up the animal totem beaver, because for significant number of you, this is a very important message. And based on what I know about a beaver, is that they're very, very hardworking. So I feel like part of the message is do your own research, but part of the message with the beaver is be mindful that what you are doing is hard work and will require hard work on your part. So if it's a relationship and you're coming back, for some of you, don't think that magically everything is going to be completely different. Chances are it's not. So that's going to be for some of you. It just kind of came out. And then I heard, don't ignore the obvious again this time. So definitely a feeling of some of you finding yourselves in some sort of situations where you are coming back around again, or somebody's coming back around again around you, and you're supposed to be honest with yourself this time, and you're supposed to not ignore the obvious. So definitely a huge message for you. And although I don't, because they're talking about mistakes here, some of you feel you've made a mistake in the past, and something didn't work out. So it's important for you not to ignore the obvious. You'll get signs, because as you actually have this. And then I went with the cards. So that's what I got as far as channeled messages. Then I asked for obvious various things. One of the first things comes up right away for you is the higher power in this position, in protection position. So this is all about you being mindful where you put your power, where you put your energy, where you give your power away, particularly in relationships. For some of you, this is surrounding the fundamental value you hold within yourself. And if that's the case, you will have a tendency to give your power away. There's no question about it. But I feel like I want to address dynamics in a current relationship, existing one, or ones that you've had in the past, where there was total this imbalance and disharmony within that relationship. And I feel like you were the one who, quote unquote, paid the bigger price. Whether it's because you've given your power away, and there's something about you have given your power away in the past, and making sure that you watch out for that, not to do it again. Obviously, when we give our power away, things, don't seem to go well, generally speaking. So that's the first message. The next message you have, happy. And this is basically deciding to be happy, doing something silly, going to, a bookstore, whoever buys books these days, and, have a coffee and read a book, which is maybe something you haven't done before. Anything that brings simple pleasure and joy into your life would be very, very beneficial for you in the month of June. And again, for some of you in July. And I feel perhaps because you are going to be dealing with some things, maybe you're going to be stripped of your fears, and your vulnerability is going to come up, and that may bring up some things to the surface like we talked about before. So your job through this process is to find activities to counterbalance what you might be experiencing emotionally speaking. He's asking me to say that there's nothing bad here. This is not about something bad happening. This is simply about an emotional state of mind that some of you will be experiencing as you go through the month of June, and for some of you in July. The next message you have is a message in a bottle, and it is in protection. So again, don't ignore the obvious. If you have been asking for messages from Spirit, if you have been asking for advice, if you have been asking people for suggestions, and you're being given all of this, but you then don't take any of them, not that you have to, because it's not what you want to see or what you want to hear, then that becomes a bit of a problem. So the message here is very loud and clear. What you asked for is being given to you. You need to find it. And I'm asking for an example. Let's say you are, what's an example that I can give? Let's say you meet somebody. Okay, so this is for those of you who are single or looking. Let's say you meet somebody and you've been with this person for quite some, well, I don't know, let's say a few weeks, whatever, just for the sake of an argument. And you're really not sure what you should do. For whatever reason, you are not really in line within yourself to make a decision one way or the other. Clearly, if you're kind of feeling one way or the other, you're not feeling great about it. And you're asking the universe, intuition for let's say for proof, not for proof, for an answer of what you should do in that situation. So then, you go along with this relationship, just bear with me. And the next time you see this person, your partner, they're in a really pissy mood, and all of a sudden you're starting to see there's anger coming out. And then he gives you some excuse, or she gives you some excuse, and then you kind of, push it to the side. But then it happens again and again. Now, if you have asked for a sign and something is happening again and again that's giving you that feeling in the stomach, then you gotta listen. So if you're not listening, it's not because you don't know, it's because you don't want to listen. So that's the drastic example that I'm being asked to give you. Now, let's move on with animals. So the first animal energy you have is the gazelle. So the gazelle is all about grace and beauty, but the message of the gazelle is that the gazelle can be so hypersensitive to her or his environment that they forget to enjoy the beauty that's around them or the world they've created. In other words, if you are used to feeling or looking for things to go wrong or constantly picking on things that are negative, then chances are your life is going to not feel very great because you're focusing on the wrong things. And a lot of this message has to do, again, with the word vulnerability. So for those of you who have been hurt in the past and are on the lookout to make sure you don't repeat the same mistake, which sounds like some of you will be looking at it, okay? So with this talking about vulnerability, and as I was saying, for those of you who have been hurt in the past, and particularly in relationships, and now you are extra vigilant and extra hypersensitive to be on the lookout for the things that you are wanting to avoid because of what happened last time, you actually forget to enjoy the process because you're always on the lookout for something that is wrong or for something that reminds you of something so that you don't make the same mistake again. So the message with this card is being aware and vulnerable at the same time is a perfect balance if you can quantify it that way. It is about not being one way or the other, but being a blend of both. And for those of you who this makes sense, you will understand exactly what I'm saying. So this is about allowing your vulnerability to be out there, so you're open to receive, while you are aware, not vigilant, but aware. And to me, awareness is a very detached feeling. Control, for example, it's a very hands-on feeling. So I see words as feelings and as energies. So you can be aware, which is an observer, but without being vigilant, and you can also be vulnerable at the same time. So that's a message for you. It's also a message of hope. For some reason, I'm being asked to give you the word hope. So for some of you, this is really important for you to hear that there is hope in your situation. You have the hyena as another aspect to consider. So hyenas are very fierce, they're very driven, they're very fast, they're very independent. But the energy of a hyena has an underlying hurt, pain, and resentment that often comes out or can come out like as jokes, as inappropriate comments, as what's the word I'm looking for? Fearful laugh, particularly being cynical, because those are all generally residues, can I say it that way, of something deeper that is being masked. So for those of you who identify with what I just said, make sure that you address those feelings so that your behavior doesn't detract on others unnecessarily. For some of you, this is interesting, I want to say, for some of you, people are scared of you, and I don't know why. Maybe because you have a bite and you're trying to be seen as very strong because you've been hurt in the past. Maybe some of you are being perceived as being overwhelming or intimidating. Also, that very often is a face we put on in order to mask what we're trying to hide. So hypervigilance again comes with this, because when we put on certain masks, it's because we're trying to avoid something from happening. The next message you have is the fish. Now this is interesting again, because the fish talks about constant movement, and during the constant movement, it forgets what it's doing in the first place. So, and again, the word peace of mind comes in. This is particularly with the fish symbol around relationships. So if, for example, one is jumping from one to the other, one can never truly understand themselves, because if they did, they wouldn't do it. Because chances are when you jump from one to another, it's because it isn't working, or you are looking for things to not work. Point is, this is about focus, and they did say earlier objectivity, so they did say that don't ignore the obvious. I thought there was other words that I was being given, and you are in a cycle 10, so those are the numbers that came up, which I'll talk about in a second. So if you have been running around from date to date, dating different people, maybe it's time to stop, and maybe it's time to focus on you. And yes, relationship is the first thing that comes up, but there could be also other things. If you're trying to keep yourself busy, constantly busy doing things for other people, while not attending to your own goal, your own garden, or while not attending to you, then that's called escapism. Is that what I want to say? So just be mindful where your energy goes. Again, where do you give your power to? Who do you give your power away? Or what do you give your power away? Very, very important here. Okay. And for a lot of us, we've done these things for so many years. It becomes so natural. We don't even know we're doing it 95% of the time. So it's about, again, objectivity. The word that is coming up is objectivity. But once again, it's about being aware. Now, I said, okay, what's going on for June? You have 8 of Swords, you have 9 of Pentacles, you have King of Cups in reverse, and you also have Judgment in reverse. So first and foremost, I see this as a story. And what I'm being shown is that there is, number one, obviously 8 of Swords is a self-imposed prison. So this is going to come up for you, for those of you who this is meant for, in the month of June and July. I want to say first half of July. And it will feel like you felt this before. In other words, it's a feeling of not again. And it is going to be with your fears. Something is going to get triggered, and it's going to bring up a whole bunch of stuff from your past. I hear the word resentment once again. So for those of you who are holding on to pain that belongs in the past, you might want to examine if that's there for you. But I also feel that these fears, those self-imposed fears, are about stability with regards to either a partner, male or female, who either is emotionally not available or you emotionally can't connect with. Can't connect with? Is that how I see it? No, it's not that you can't connect with. It's you are unsure of their commitment to you. Now, this may be in a situation at work. Most likely it's going to be in a relationship, but this can be in a situation at work. This can also be a currently standing situation, as in a current situation with a long-standing problem or challenge. Now, when I asked for more information, you got the Judgment in reverse. So what this is saying to me is that there is an opportunity here in the month of June and some of July to break some pretty darn big patterns. There's an opportunity to put something to rest. But in the position of reverse, it's saying to me that some of you may resist it or may ignore it. Again, don't ignore the messages you've been asking. So if you're not paying attention, now it's on you. Okay? And I'm saying it with a smile on my face. This card is also often about when somebody is not willing to look at themselves, or not wanting to be honest with themselves, which is essentially kind of the same thing. And as I'm saying this, I'm saying, hey, no judgment. We all do this. And we procrastinate with making some choices or decisions. But remember, one of the biggest things for you is relationships and new relationships. So if there's an opportunity for you to start new, you better start paying attention to the things in the past that have gotten you to where you are today. Presumably you're not happy with you are today, because if you are, that part of the message is not for you. And then see what you can do different. I always say, he's asking me to say this to you. You always have a choice in what happens next. How you approach it is up to you. More information? There's a feeling of, I feel like I have no choice. Like I have no choice. So I just throw my hands in the air. It's like I have no choice. And I'm you. But the reality is, I don't have the choices I want. So why would I want the other ones? Okay. Because those are not the choices I want, I refuse to look at other choices. I just automatically push them away. So this is, to me, if you've done things the same old way, if you continue to do things the same old way, you will get the same old result. And that's why he's saying you have a choice, but you first need to recognize it. I hope this is making sense. And I think that's all I have. Quickly with the numbers, you have 3 and 7. So 3 is all about expansion, as we know. 7, to me, it's mastery. You are certainly going to go through something. You're going to be stripped, for some of you, regarding vulnerability, which brings us to the number 10, as I mentioned earlier, which is completion. So huge potential here to, I hear the word undeserving. For some of you, this is a fundamental belief that you are not deserving, and this is not going to be conscious for 90% of you, if not more. But if you trace back to your pain and resentment, you may find, or you will realize, what the underlying emotion is that you still carry. Okay? And that's going to be for those of you who know exactly what I'm talking about. I hope this was helpful. If this doesn't make sense, I always say listen to it at the end of the month or a little bit later. Generally speaking, from what I hear from you, they almost always make sense towards the end of the month. I wish you happiness, love, and compassion. I don't know why I'm saying that. And enjoy the month of June. And I guess, the month of June. I'll see you in July. Make the best of it. And remember, objectivity, and be honest with yourself, and don't ignore the obvious this time. And if you would like a private session, that information is down below. Thank you so much again, and I will see you soon. Bye.